What is up, everyone? Corn O'Keefe back yet again, and as the title implies, I'm bringing you another death battle prediction. We got Static from DC Comics versus Miles from Marvel Comics. So without further ado, let's get right to the prediction. Starting off with speed for both of these badasses. As we know, Static is fast enough to react to lasers, and he's actually done this on more than one occasion. Not to mention, he should easily scale to other characters who are around his level who have also reacted to light speed attacks, such as Batman, Nightwing, etc, etc. For example, Batman himself has actually dodged pure light speed attacks from Dr. Light before, and has been able to avoid Green Lantern's light, which is literally pure light. And we also know Nightwing has been able to react to lasers and dodge them as well. And we know Static easily scales to Batman in terms of reaction time and short burst combat speed, as well as Nightwing. I mean, heck, the dude was able to keep up with Ravager. The same Ravager who's been able to outmatch both Damian Wayne and Deathstroke. So yeah, in terms of reaction time and short burst combat speed, Static should easily be at least in the relativistic ranges. Looking over at Miles himself is easily comparable to Peter Parker in terms of reaction time and short burst combat speed. And heck, we've even seen Miles easily dodge Peter Parker's web. The same web that has easily been able to tag characters like Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, etc, etc, who all have comparable reaction time to Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker himself. And we know Peter is actually fast enough to dodge pure light speed attacks. We've actually seen him do this multiple times throughout the comics. As well as tag Quicksilver, who outran radio waves. So it's actually pretty easy to say both Miles and Static have at least relativistic to the speed of light reaction time and short burst combat speed. Moving on over to attack power. Starting off with Static, we know Static is powerful enough to bust through walls and easily bust through steel with his electricity. And of course we know Static overwhelmed and defeated Ravager in a fight. As mentioned earlier, Ravager actually outmatched Deathstroke. The same Deathstroke who can shatter missile-proof glass, and is superior to Batman, who has been able to withstand a tank shell. This scaling should easily put Static around the building up to the building plus ranges in terms of attack power. Moving on over to Miles. How powerful is Miles? Well, as we know, he is actually stated to be comparable to Peter Parker, albeit slightly weaker, but still very comparable nonetheless. And we know Peter Parker is actually powerful enough to easily damage Deadpool with his strikes. And this is the same Deadpool who is durable enough to tank a blast that destroyed an Empire State Building floor with the shockwaves, and tanked a rocket that was powerful enough to level the entire Baxter building. We also know Peter is more powerful than somebody like Captain America. Heck, we've even seen Miles damage and draw blood from the Ultimate Green Goblin. So, in terms of attack power, Miles should easily scale to be at least large building level, possibly even reaching the city block ranges. In terms of durability, well, both of these badasses should have durability that is at least comparable to their own attack power. Heck, as mentioned again, Static actually was able to go up against Ravager and obviously survive and withstand attacks from that badass. And other characters who are somewhat in the same tier as Static have multiple feats that would place them around the building up to the building plus level ranges, like Batman being able to withstand a tank shell, surviving an exploding school, just to name a couple. And obviously Miles has durability that is comparable to the durability of Peter, and we know Peter was able to withstand the weight of the Daily Bugle, and is also more durable than somebody like Daredevil. Heck, we've seen Miles withstand an attack from Ultimate Rhino. So the durability of Miles should easily be at least large building, possibly even reaching the city block ranges. So in terms of physical stats, it's honestly pretty clear that these two characters should be fast enough to keep up with each other and react to each other's attacks, while Miles holds the attack power and durability advantages. Now, in terms of experience and overall intelligence, I may actually have to give this to Static, as Static works at Star Labs and has actually been known to mix his scientific knowledge in combat. Miles, on the other hand, has less experience and less skill than somebody like Peter Parker. However, that does not mean he's completely lacking in that department. However, I would definitely have to give that advantage to Static overall. In terms of gear, well, Static has his Static Saucer, his 6-disc flyer, his signature staff, along with his lab and computer uplink thanks to his suit. As for Miles, obviously he has his web shooter, his Venom Blast. Heck, Miles has some other special things going for him, like his spider camouflage. And as a side effect of the Oz formula, Miles obtained some form of immortality. Norman Osborn himself actually mentioned immortality is a side effect of the Oz formula. And we do know Miles does have the Oz formula flowing through his DNA. So I'm sure a lot of you are wondering at this point, well, Corin, who in the heck do you think takes victory more often than not? Well, folks, I would honestly have to say Miles should probably be taking this more often than not. And here's why. Yes, they are fast enough to keep up with each other, but only one of them is actually powerful enough to damage and take out the other one, and durable enough to withstand attacks from the other one. And that person, that character, would be Miles himself. As Miles is at least large building level in terms of attack power and durability, if not city block level, whereas Static is at least building, possibly building plus. However, that's not going to be enough to damage Miles or withstand his attacks. And you could argue, well, Miles hasn't shown any resistance to electricity-based attacks, but at the same time, he hasn't exactly shown to be extremely vulnerable to electricity-based attacks either. And something else to take into consideration is the potency of Static's electrical-based attacks. Because obviously electricity and electrical attacks still have energy flowing through them. And as we went over, in terms of consistency, Static is reaching the building up to the building plus ranges in terms of attack potency. However, that's actually not potent enough to break through the durability of Miles, who has at least large building level durability, if not city block, as mentioned. So just because Miles hasn't necessarily shown resistance to electricity before, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to affect him that much, especially when the character who is using the electricity hasn't demonstrated feats or scaling consistently on the same level as Miles. And thanks to the Oz formula, Miles was granted a form of immortality, so that is going to make it very hard to kill him as well at the end of the day. Obviously, you can get past this form of immortality, especially if you have the necessary attack power and speed to outtax the rapid healing factor. However, Static is going to have a very hard time doing that, seeing as he's going to have a very hard time damaging Miles to begin with. And sure, on the other hand, Miles has his Venom Blast, which you could argue may not affect Static, as he generates electricity through his body. So you could argue he's completely resistant or immune, but on the other hand, the potency of the Venom Blast may actually be above his pay grade. As we know, Miles' Venom Blast was able to knock out Ultimate Blackheart, who had just previously knocked out the Ultimate's Avengers, including Thor. And yeah, while the potency of the Venom Blast does vary on how much it's charged, if we're looking at them at their best, then they were able to knock out Ultimate Blackheart. And while Ultimate Blackheart may not be as powerful as his 616 main counterpart, this is still highly impressive nonetheless. And at the end of the day, it should be above Static's pay grade. Not to mention, Miles actually has more stamina than Static. as he has stamina that is comparable to Peter Parker's stamina. The same Peter Parker who has been able to fight for 12 hours straight before getting tired. So at the end of the day, in terms of consistency, Miles has greater attack power. Static does not have the necessary durability to withstand the attack power of Miles. Static doesn't have the necessary attack power himself to actually break through the durability of Miles. And Static may not actually be able to withstand the Venom Blast that actually knocked out Ultimate Blackheart. And Miles definitely has the stamina to outlast Static at the end of the day. But with all that being said, and in my opinion, I would honestly have to give the victory to Miles more often than not. But let me know what you all think down below. As always, have a blessed day, folks. Peace!